I talk to people every week who want to retire early. They've put away some good money for retirement and they want to get on with the next stage in their life. Their question's always the same. Do I have enough? And how will it work? Today, I'm going to walk through a full case study of a married couple who are almost 62 years old. They'd like to retire. They got about $1.5 million saved. We're going to answer their question of whether they can retire now, as well as look at what could go wrong that could derail their plan. So here we go. Here's our couple. We've got Chandler and Monica Bing. Obviously not their real names. They're both about 61 and a half years old. They'll be 62 shortly. Chandler works as a VP of data for a big marketing company. He makes $125,000 a year. Monica's a chef. She's tired of working those crazy long hours, but right now she makes about $100,000 a year. They didn't save a ton for retirement early. They've got a couple of kids. That was real expensive. They helped the kids pay for college, and then they really started to ramp up their retirement savings in the last 10 or so years. So Chandler's sitting on $800,000 in his 401k. Monica's got $700,000 in hers. Right now, they're both contributing nicely, 10% of their income going into the 401k, and they get a 5% match from their employer. So they're putting away a total of 15% per year. All of this money is going in pre-tax. There's no Roth money here. So right off the bat, we know we're going to have to contend with managing tax bills in retirement and watching out for RMD creep, depending upon how much they're looking to draw from their portfolio. They've still got a mortgage, but that's their only debt. They owe about $350,000 on their home, which is worth $650,000. There's a chance that they may sell it somewhere down the road, but there's no plan for it right now, and they'd honestly still need a place to live when that happens, so we're not going to consider the equity in their house to fund their retirement plans in this case. And lastly, as far as assets, they've got $100,000 in the bank. That's their emergency fund money, although once they're retired, that's probably a bit much to keep fully in cash for somebody who's got around $1.4 million or so otherwise, but we'll cross that bridge here in just a minute. As you can see here from their asset map, there are some future Social Security numbers on here. That's defaulting to age 67 to what their benefit would be at full retirement age. More on their Social Security strategy in just a second. They've also got some term life insurance. You can see here $1 million a piece is sitting out there for both of them. You know that a primary concern beyond have you saved enough? The next question is what happens if somebody passes away early in retirement, or what happens if someone lives too long? The life insurance here, even though it's term, there's enough length left on it to help them out in the event of one of them passing away too soon. Now, there are a couple of things here that are just staring us in the face on the asset map. That's the nice part about having all their finances on one page. We can spot some inefficiencies pretty easily. So first off, all pre-tax money, as I said, that could give us some grief. We're going to need to do some tax planning here on a year-by-year basis to make sure that they're managing their income and not pushing too high up into the tax brackets. Secondly, depending upon their goals, there are assets here, but certainly there's not enough to think that they would just be bulletproof in retirement. And so we're going to need to take a look there as we get into the plan, whether they've actually got enough to be able to pull this off. And lastly, as an early retiree, we've got to have a plan for healthcare, specifically before Medicare, and we can see that they don't have HSA accounts, so we're going to have to cover these expenses from other sources. Now that we know a little bit about the Bing's finances, let's talk about what it is that they want to have happen. First off, they'd love to retire at 62. The plan is that they'll both take Social Security immediately at 62, and they'll need a total of around $8,000 a month net after taxes to pay the mortgage, to cover the bills, and all of the day-to-day living expenses. As far as other goals in retirement, they want to do some traveling. Their kids moved away from home. They moved across the country. And so just getting out several times a year to see them is going to run them upwards of about $10,000 a year. And we want to plan on that for at least the next 15 years. They've also always wanted to take a trip to Europe, and so that's a big bucket list item early on in retirement, and they expect that that's going to cost them around $20,000 or so all in. Now, they just found out that their first grandchild's on the way. That's actually what's pushing them to retire. They're hopeful that they'll have more grandchildren in the future, and someday they'd like to leave some money to those grandkids. So financial legacy is important to them, but we don't have a hard target on exactly what that means at this point, so we don't have a specific goal in line for it. Lastly, as far as goals go, we're going to fill in a healthcare cost goal based on retiring early and getting a healthcare.gov plan. We're estimating premiums, deductibles out of pocket for them to run right around $10,000 a year between now and Medicare age. and then slightly less per year at that point for their Medicare premiums, their Part B, their supplement, and out-of-pocket costs. Obviously, if you don't know, when we put these goals in, we're going to inflate them at a faster rate than regular inflation in the plan because obviously healthcare costs are going up pretty substantially. Now let's move over to the big question, as is. Are they able to make this work in retirement? So I'm going to flip over to the Monte Carlo. If you don't remember, this is a simulation. It's going to run 1,000 different scenarios based on the data we put in and give us a probability of success. How many times did they get to the end of their plan, meet all their goals, and still have at least $1 left over? As you can see here, it's not looking great. We got a 53% success rate in this case as is. Now, that's certainly not where we would like it to be, and nobody should be retiring on a coin flip that they might have enough to get the job done. And so let's start looking at some options to see what we can do to get this number in line with something that's a little bit more reasonable for them. First things first, let's look at Social Security. What happens if we change their strategy? Remember, they were planning to take Social Security at 62 as soon as possible for both of them, and that makes common sense. The income is about to stop. The Social Security checks would cover some of that income need. But if we look at the strategies here, we can see that electing as soon as possible is actually a bad plan for them. If we look at the available scenarios here and see what it will do to their probability of success, you can see that we've got some room for improvement. If they still retire at 62, but wait all the way to age 70, it's telling us that that gives us the best shot. That's all the way up to a 70% success rate. My concern there is what waiting that long will do to the portfolio, what we refer to as portfolio reliance rate. It's going to be through the roof, and it's going to be there for their first 8 or so years of retirement. I like this option 5, however. What if Chandler waited all the way to age 70 to max out his check, but Monica elects at full retirement age? When she elects, we can have Chandler elect a spousal benefit and then flip to his benefit at age 70. This gets them some money flowing a little sooner. It also props up our success rate to 66%. Not great, but it's a strong improvement. And it shows us that the break even here is only age 77. That's not too bad at all. So we're going to make that change. We're going to select that option. Next up, let's look at adding some more guaranteed income. We want to do this here because we know it's looking a little thin for them to meet their needs fully from the portfolio at a sustainable withdrawal rate. And so let's see if we can get a little bit of leverage here. If we elect a portion of Chandler's 401k into an annuity with a joint lifetime income benefit, we can take $200,000 and create a lifetime income of almost $18,000 a year if we wait a few years to turn that income on. And you can see that raising the income guarantee moves them up another 7 percentage points. So now we're sitting all the way up at a 73% success rate. This is what I mean when I talk about creating guaranteed sources of retirement income. In this case, the Social Security checks alone don't meet the day-to-day needs. And the distribution from the portfolio is pretty steep. It's at a high level that might not be sustainable. So adding additional income by using an annuity is able to benefit them in this case. It's not always the case, but here it looks like it helps. Now, I'm not mad at the 73%, and let me tell you why. First, we need to know that we're in the ballpark on a Monte Carlo, but that this is basing things off of what will happen up to and including 30 years from now, and we just don't know what's going to happen that far out. We've got to be in the ballpark. We can't look at this thing and say, oh, we got a 30% or 40% or even the 53% we had. We can't just hang out there like it's not a problem, but at 73%, we're already barking up the right tree. The second thing about it, look at this. If we drop their income need from $96,000 per year down to $93,000 per year, that's $250 a month. Could they find $250 a month on $8,000 a month in income? I bet they can. Immediately, that jumps things all the way up to 81%, that one little change. Now, what if they spent $9,000 a year on travel to the kids instead of $10,000? Now we've picked up to 83%. Now, let me show you one last thing. What if we kept the income need where it was, kept the travel need at the full amount, but instead of retiring at 62, they said, you know what, we'll wait until the end of the year. We'll work an extra 8 months or so. We'll go until we hit 63. That pushes them up to an 86% chance. So here's my point. First off, we can't take a Monte Carlo as gospel because lots of things will happen between retirement and 30 plus years down the line. But number two, if you're in the right vicinity, little changes can make a huge difference. Now, there's certainly more to this scenario. We didn't get into their specific asset allocation, their investment plan, but I don't want to keep you here all day. What I wanted to do was show you that these types of small tweaks, a tax change here, a small addition there, a change to the Social Security strategy, they make all the difference. And that's exactly why people have financial advisors. If anything I said here sparked something in you, reach out to schedule a consultation. You can use the first link in the description to do it, and I'll see you in the next video.